What is it?
It's time to go back.
Welcome.
Hey, welcome back to Generation X. It is a podcast about growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s. Let me put it to you this way. If you thought your life's problems could be solved within 24 minutes, just like you saw on TV, this podcast is for you. I'm Dan Kemp, and today I am joined by a good buddy of mine. You may know him from the Whiskeylodeon Podcast, Mr. Ty. Ty, welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, dude. And so this week we're talking all about TV dads in the 90s. This is kind of a follow-up to last month's episode where my own wife and I did a TV Moms of the 90s, and we had a lot of fun with that. And we're taking a bit of a different approach today. We're, you and I are both, real-life dads. We both have kids, and obviously, took a lot of influence from what we saw on TV in terms of, like, this is what we thought being a parent was like because that's what we saw on TV. And so, especially now that we are parents, we look and go, okay, the behavior that those fathers exhibited, is that what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing? So we're going to talk about that. You've also got a couple of lists planned here. So you've got a list of the 5 best TV dads. And I want to preface this with it's going to be both animated and live action or real life, whatever you want to call it, for best TV dads, and the same thing for the worst TV dads. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. But before I do, obviously, I want to give you a chance, Ty, to introduce yourself once again. And for those who have just tuned in for the first time to this podcast, maybe don't know what you're all about with your podcast, Whiskeylodeon. And we are recording this a few weeks in advance, but this is coming out the week of Father's Day to give you kind of an idea of, what's coming up with season 3 of Whiskeylodeon, man. So what's on the docket? What can you share with us?
Well, we are actually recording tomorrow.
All right.
So I'm going to be
So by the time this comes out, hopefully it'll be good to go.
Yeah. So if the first episode is not out, the trailer will be.
Okay.
And I showed you the trailer, and I fucking loved it, man.
It's a fantastic trailer.
I'm
Yes.
so excited.
Yeah. No, I got a little sneak peek. I'm pretty pumped.
But yeah, so first episode we're covering the SpongeBob movie.
Oh wow! For the first for the season premiere.
Yeah, for the season premiere. So
Nice. All of them are just the original theatrical release SpongeBob movie.
Just the original SpongeBob SquarePants movies. Now, there were several theatrical releases. But
I'm just saying, but the first one, though.
Yeah, we're covering the first one.
It's the best one.
So, and our cocktail, if you've seen the movie, is the Triple Goober Berry Sunrise, which is a triple berry whiskey float.
Nice.
So I've made like a triple berry sorbet because Sean's vegan. And I'm going to have that with a rye whiskey with a little bit of blood orange juice or blood orange simple syrup. I'm not sure which direction I want to go in yet, but that's going to be fun.
That sounds good. How many of those do you think you'd be able to handle in one recording?
See, that's the thing. So I'm literally going over to Sean's house where the studio is, and I'm staying there all weekend. Because we're going to knock out 3 episodes, and I might not remember it afterwards.
You may need a little time in between to recover,
So we're going in, doing the first one. Then we're going to be eating and trying to soak up. But, oh my gosh, I was super excited. So I won't say by Father's Day, which, by the way, happy Father's Day.
Yes, you too.
To
absolutely.
you and to your listeners who are dads, and even if they're not dads, happy Father's Day.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, especially, and you know what? That's a good point because I have friends that they have dogs and they like to wish themselves Happy Father's Day. Where do you fall now that you're a human father? Where do you fall on the debate of dog owners? Should you wish them a Happy Father's Day, or should they just shove it because they're not real parents?
So I was a dog dad before I was a human dad.
Okay,
and so I'm all about that, but also therapy. Sometimes you have to be the dad you never had.
That's true, too. That's a very good point.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I like that, man. Yes, and happy Father's Day to all the dads, future dads, potential dads, moms that are doing both parts, because that's a thing too, right? You got single parents in general. I shouldn't just say moms, obviously. Single parents. Happy Father's Day and happy Mother's Day to you too, if you were doing both roles and you're a dad. So,
and Merry
I think
Christmas
we got
if
it
you're
all.
also Santa. I mean,
I think we covered all our bases there. I think we're good. Awesome. Okay, so maybe you won't have the episode out by the time this episode drops, but you'll definitely be well into production.
yes.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
So, about the show, because you asked me to describe it, it is a drunk Nickelodeon rewatch podcast. So we cover the classic 80s, 90s. I think right now we are going to be in production with, of course, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Salute Your Shorts. We're getting into some of the weird stuff. Wienerville. Do you remember Count Duckula?
I remember seeing pictures of Count Duckula, but I never watched the show. I could look at that.
Vegetarian vampire duck, and it looks insane.
It reminded me of like Tiny Toons, like when you look at just still images. It has like that same Warner Brothers animation style, but it's not Warner Brothers, right? No.
It was from I want to say the BBC. It was a British-made animated show that Nickelodeon purchased the rights to.
Well, they did that a lot back in the day, right? That was when they were trying to. That's what I'm saying. They didn't have a lot of original programming.
They had to license out stuff, and
it
wasn't until like the 90s, early 90s, that they got their three first of Rugrats, Doug, and Ren and Stimpy.
Yes, the OG Nicktoons, and then and they had of course the game shows and stuff like that too, which we covered back on the Generation S podcast back in January for our New Year's Nicktoons Nickelodeon extravaganza. So, man, that was a wild one. And then Wienerville, I actually used to watch that every morning before school because I think it came on at like 7 in the morning or even 6 maybe in the morning, and it was weird because we had it was Mark Wiener, I think his name was.
Yes,
and he was just like a comedian, I guess, right, or something, because it was like a sketch comedy show. Well, the whole thing with him was it was like the big heads on the little body puppets, right? It was like full size human heads, and then you had these little miniature bodies that they were moving around or whatever. That was the shtick, I guess.
Yeah, I never watched it growing up, and I can understand why my parents didn't want me to.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine the fact that it's called Wienerville would have gotten a lot of parents kind of, gotten their dander up a little bit,
Yeah.
But because can you imagine as a kid, Mom, I want to go to Wienerville. That just sounds like a bad pickup line from the 70s, man.
I mean, so women had Margaritaville, guys had Wienerville. It was kind of their thing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess they're this. I don't know. Maybe that's the male counterpart. Oh shit. Well, hey, I'm excited for season 3. Your show is fantastic. I love listening to you guys, and would love to have Sean come on here too for a future episode. I know he's super busy and everything, but would love to have him come on as well for a future, whether it's Nickelodeon or just any old episode. Would love to have you both on here.
Well,
it'd be kind of cool.
I'll go ahead and let your listeners know. We're basically going to be splitting our season in half because on Father's Day, I'll also be having. Well, I don't know if it's going to be on Father's Day, but I have a baby girl that is due around Father's Day.
That's right.
So
that's why we're recording this like a month in advance, because I messaged you about this. I'm like, dude, let's do a TV Dads episode for Father's Day. You're like, dude, I can't. I have a baby due around Father's Day. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Let's record it now because we have technology, and then we'll sit it in the can for a few weeks from now. And you're like, oh, of course. And that's why we're talking.
Yeah, I'm already sleep deprived to the point where I was like, oh, he wants to do it on Father's Day. And I'm like, sure.
You're just practicing.
It's supposed to be my day. I guess my wife could be like, hey, sorry, but I'm going to do a podcast.
Right now.
You knew, my wife actually did our podcast on our anniversary.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So it's the Harriet the Spy episode. And it was just like, hey, it's our anniversary. We're going to have a babysitter. So she gets to drink. This was before she was pregnant. And oh my gosh, the stories I can tell that I shouldn't share.
Listen, I don't want to get you in trouble. At least not on my podcast. Like, you want to tell them on a different podcast, that's on you. But I'm not going to be the reason that your wife is pissed. Oh man. Well, super excited for your show. Super excited for your pending bundle of joy.
Oh,
and
yes. So the reason why I was bringing that up is so we're splitting it up. So the second half we have already talked about, but we haven't planned the date. But we're gonna have you on, and we can plan like a collab episode where we could be on yours as well.
Absolutely. Yep. No, I'm all for it, man. Just let me know when, and I'll be there, and I'll make sure that our listeners here check it out as well. So little, like I said, a little cross collaboration, cross promotion. By the way, that's what you're supposed to do as podcasters. If you're listening to this and you're a budding podcaster, go talk to other podcasters. That's what I did. I messaged you on a Facebook group of podcasters and was like, dude, I'd love to have you on the show. And you're like, dude, let's do it. And so now we've done it. This is your third appearance on the show, I think.
Yeah.
Your second solo appearance. You did that one episode a few weeks back where we talked all Toonami. So, yeah, man, super excited. Listen, that's enough circle jerking here. Let's talk about TV dads. What do you say?
But I haven't come.
Jesus, man. All right. So let me ask you a question before we even get to your list. When I say I want you to picture a TV dad in your head, do you have like an instant image that comes to your mind?
So it has since changed. If you would have talked to me even just 2 years ago, where and to put in perspective where I was in my life, my child, my firstborn, my son, who I love dearly. So, my lovely wife, if you're listening, I love you and I love my child. I'm stating that beforehand. He was colicky for the first 8 months.
Oh, yeah.
And this was also during a time where I felt like I was kind of losing my identity, that I was just reduced to a role. And I didn't feel like I was being a good dad because he was just always crying. I couldn't help. And this is also time that I kind of felt secluded. So I was dealing with a lot of depression. So when I thought about TV dads in the 90s, my first thought was just the absentee dad trope.
Yeah.
And so, like, whenever you're like, hey, 90s dads, let's talk about them, I'm like, well, there's going to be a lot of judgment. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, they were actually some really good examples to outshine.
Yeah.
So now if I think about a good dad, it is not often the one that is biological. It's the one that takes the role by choice.
Yeah.
So I have a top 5. So for my top 5, my number 1 is actually Uncle Philip Banks from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yep.
Like, just the fact that he took on that role. And even in the beginning, my wife and I just started rewatching it. And just even in the beginning, he was like, this motherfucking kid comes into my house, but he still cares.
Yes.
And it's just
you can always tell, yeah.
Yes. So even if he's annoyed, he's like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And having been like someone who's dealt with abandonment trauma, like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
Ooh. So yeah, that's the epitome of TV dad for me.
Okay. Well, and listen, that's fair because, I mean, yeah, spoiler for your list that we're going to go through in detail later, Ty. Thank you. But, yeah, Uncle Phil, I mean, he is 100%, probably my neither number 1 or a close tie with a number 2 dad, who is also on your list. I do know your list, but I won't give it away. I do want to, like I said, I want to leave some suspense I want listeners to get through more than, 12 minutes of this thing. So, I think you're right though, because, because there were absentee dads on TV back in the day. And by absentee, I meant like they're obviously on the show because that's the whole point, is they're an actor playing a character in the show, but they were never really involved in their kids' lives. Their kids were always getting into nonsense or whatever. And again, I think of like a lot of the cartoon dads where the kids were just off doing whatever and they were kind of like aloof to all of it. And it wasn't even just dads. There was TV moms that did the exact same thing, right? Where they were just like, I think as far as TV moms, I think of like Peg Bundy, right? As an example. Like, she was not a good role model for motherhood. I think we can agree on that. She was hilarious, but she was not a good TV mom example if you're saying, okay, I'm going to be like that parent. Because for me, I agree, like, I see TV dads in a much different light now than I would have. I mean, my oldest son is 8 years old. So 8 years ago, I always saw TV dads as, like, were they like my dad or a friend of mine's dad? Whereas now I see these TV dads and I think, okay, how are they like what I'm like as a parent? Because, you mentioned that, with your son being colicky and you can't do a lot. They just got to cry it out, which sucks because A, it drives you up the fucking wall, but B, you can't do anything to help, and you just feel totally useless. And you're not alone in that, by the way, because my son wasn't colicky, but he had a lot of health issues that I couldn't do anything about. I just had to watch, and that sucks. But and I still do this too. At the end of every day, I ask myself, I say, did I do a good job as a father today? I mean, every day, pretty much. I will, not out loud, but I'll to myself go, did I do a good job as a father today? So it is totally normal to constantly be like checking yourself, like doing quality control on your own performance and like critiquing yourself throughout. Like, okay, let's go through the day. Okay, at 10:17, I yelled at him for this. At 3 p.m., I gave him a big hug for this. And so you're constantly auditing yourself to see, okay, am I a good father? And that's it's the biggest difference between real life and what you see on TV, because those problems are resolved, as I said at the beginning. They're resolved in less than 30 minutes, right? And boom, any dad can be a great. Actually, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to back up here.
Hold on,
because there's a very good. No, there's a point to this. So, do you know the show Bluey?
Yeah, I love Bluey.
Love Bluey. Does watching Bluey make you feel like a shitty father, though? No. Okay. It does for me, but I'm going to tell you why. Because I see what that dad, Bandit, right? Mm. Bandit, does with his kids. And he's the most amazing father, right? And he just does all this cool stuff with his kids. And I'm like, I don't do any of those things with my kids. I'm a shitty parent. Even though I'm not, that's how it makes me feel. And then I read somewhere, somebody commented on like an article about like, here's why Bluey makes you feel like a bad parent. Because apparently I'm not alone in this. Like, this is a thing. Each episode is like 8 minutes long. If you can do what he does for 8 minutes throughout the day, spread out, you're just as good as him. I'm like, all right, I can handle 8 minutes of doing really cool, fun stuff like Bandit does throughout the day. And all of a sudden I feel so much better about myself.
Huh. I'm very curious because it's, for me, Bandit was an inspiration. There was like, man, I want to be like that. I want to be that dad. So it wasn't like, oh man, I'm not like that. I must be shit. So like, I'm kind of curious, and we can talk to a therapist about how this makes you feel. And what I love about Bluey is that yes, he plays and engages with his kids, but there's also some realistic moments where like they have like an episode after New Year's Eve. They are hungover and like, dude, I don't want to move. So you can play, like you can get on me, but I'm not moving. Like, but you're a boat and mom's a whale. And the dad's like, and mom's like, well, I can't really flop around. I need corn chips and sour cream. And it's just, yes, they're engaging even for that little bit of time. Yeah. But it's also like, okay, guys, y'all need to chill. And I felt that. Like, my kid will go out, I was like, I can't eat this anymore because it's not the exact way I want it. I'm like, bruh, you gotta chill. Yeah. No, I have those moments all the time. And, it's those moments where you have a decision you have to make, right? Where you're like, okay, how am I going to handle this? And then at that point, in my head, like, and it's got to happen very quickly because I need to usually make these quick decisions with how I react. My first thought is, what would my dad have done? My second thought is, whatever he did, was that the right move? And my third thought was, okay, what do other dads do in situations like this? And so that's when I start, going back to like TV dads or whatever. You are putting a lot more thoughts than I ever have. So if you feel like shit from Bandit, knock that shit off. Because you're already thinking about these things. For me, it's just like, can I even? I can't even. Bruh. And it's like, do I care enough to even like be like, you're wrong, just grow up, shut up? Or am I just like, I don't want to deal? Because my kid used to like painting his nails with mommy. Okay. And I don't give a shit about that. Yeah. And we have a daycare, the teacher was trying to say, I was like, no, like painting nails is for girls. And I was like, bitch, mind your business. Yeah. If he's not yelling at me, I don't give a fuck what he does. That's literally my thing, is like, is he yelling at me? Do I care? Yeah. And sometimes I have to reflect and be like, I should have cared. Yeah.
But in an instance like that, I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with, painting whatever, you know what I mean? To each their own. So that's, yeah.
Like I said,
You're
like,
right.
What did my dad do? Like, how
I
did
know,
he
well, because
scar
that's
me?
my first
Can
thing.
I scar my kid in this way? And I'm like, do I even care? Ugh, bruh,
No.
just fine. You can have ice cream for breakfast. Just let me sleep.
Oh yeah. No, see, and I can't do. I guess that's like the Catholic Jew in me is like I just get the guilt trip. Usually self-imposed.
Wait. You're a cashew?
I'm a cashew. You cashew?
No, but one. That's such a unique blend of self-hatred.
Oh my! I know. I never thought of it that way, but I guess you could be right. Yeah, Catholic Jew. I mean, I get it from every angle, pretty much.
Yeah, you're
not a practicing either.
A part
by
of yourself,
the way,
no matter what side you're focusing on. Like that.
I can't. Yeah, I can't win regardless. I don't know, man.
No wonder you have to think all these thoughts.
Maybe I've never considered myself a perfectionist, but I've always been. And by the way, folks, I apologize. This is turning into a therapy session, but I have always been like a people pleaser, right? Like I always want to make sure I'm doing the right thing because somebody else is going to be proud of me if I do it. And in this case, it's my kids.
From it.
I always have. That's my biggest thing, right?
Same.
I did good in school because I know I would get rewarded. Like my parents would tell me, "Oh, I'm so proud of you for doing so good in school." I got a good job. Oh, it's because I want my wife to be proud of me. I made my kid really happy today because I want my kids to be proud of me. I want them to be proud of what I've done for them because I know I look back on things my dad has done for me and I'm so proud of him. You know what I mean?
Now,
there were certainly things
that
the
Catholic or the Jew?
He was a Catholic,
okay.
And my mom was the Jew. So I had a doting Jewish mother, but at the same time, I mean, guilt trips, right? You can't help it, right? Like, and I love my mom to death. I don't know if she's going to listen to this or not. She doesn't usually listen to my podcast, but if Mom, I love you. And, and again, the guilt trips, maybe they were a me thing. I don't know.
It's a Jewish thing. So
I think so.
I was Mormon, and then my dad grew up Mormon, so I was part Mormon, and then my mom went from Mormonism to Judaism. So
okay.
I have like a background where like anytime I would visit her, I was in a Jewish community. So,
okay.
So I was a Morshoe?
I would say a Marmajuke. You like that?
So no, I totally get the whole guilt trip. It's like, I know you're just needing validation yourself, and you just need me to know that you care.
Yeah. I'm working through it, man. It's something that I've worked through every day because I shouldn't need validation from everyone else to feel content with myself. But it is what it is.
Feel?
I don't even want to know, man. Jeez. How much time you got, Doc?
So, dads, disappointed
right?
or no?
All right. Well, let me ask you a question. Getting back to TV dads for a second here. As far as like quality fatherhood, do you feel live action shows had more of an advantage, like a sitcom dad had more of an advantage than like an animated dad, or do you feel like there's some legit quality animated, TV dads out there that like you could take real life lessons from?
Honestly, I'm gonna say, with the exceptions, a lot of animated dads had the benefit of, well, this is a fantasy, so these dads can actually be good.
Yeah.
So there's definitely examples where they're like, well, we're trying to be more realistic, so of course they're going to be shitty. But I want to say animated had a leg up, but I want to also say, looking back, it might have been kind of even.
That's fair. No, I think I would agree because you had, I mean, there was a lot of shitty dads in animation, but there was a lot of shitty dads in live action TV sitcoms and movies and stuff like that. And that's the thing too. I guess I've been framing it in the way of TV sitcoms, but there was other shows on TV that weren't sitcoms that had parental figures, right?
Yeah.
None of them are coming to mind right now, but there has to be. I mean, there's there's definitely a few. I guess, well, and I was going to say that's probably a sitcom too, but like Malcolm in the Middle, right? Hal.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess, is that a sitcom? Would you call that a sitcom, I guess?
I would call it a sitcom. I mean, sitcom was literally situational comedy.
I guess.
So
But it wasn't a dramedy. It was definitely
Right.
more of a played for laughs
Yeah.
pretty much the entire time. So, okay.
Because, like, we'll get into it. Like, I had to take a look. Was Tony Soprano a bad dad? He was a bad dude.
Yes.
I don't think
He was a bad dad, too. He meant well, but he still screwed his kids up.
Yeah, but he screwed his kids up because his caring was fucked up, not because he was just not caring.
No, and that's, well, okay, fair enough. But if you look at it from an objective lens, the stuff he did that he didn't think affected his kids, and he was too self-centered to realize that. Like, I think of it like from a less extreme example of like, I'm trying to lose weight. I don't want to be a fat mofo because I know if I do, I'm not going to be around to see my grandkids, right? But I still love my kids. So like, I could eat an entire pizza and still love my kids and feel like I'm doing a bad thing. I'm being irresponsible by doing this because I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my family. And so the fact that Tony Soprano loved his kids, I'm not saying he didn't love his kids, but what I'm saying is that he didn't love them enough to let it impact his own personal decisions. Or if he did, it was in a very twisted, weird way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But good point. I didn't even think about Tony Soprano, but yeah, it's totally like, I mean, I didn't watch Sopranos as a kid because I was either A, too young, and B, we couldn't afford HBO for a long time. Like, did you watch it when it came out, or did you watch it later?
No, I had to watch it later.
Yeah, okay.
My family was fucking Mormon. I ain't watching that shit.
Yeah, but then you turn into, then you went Jewish. So, like, they're super liberal with TV shows, aren't they?
Well, granted, I was only there, like, over the summer and stuff like that.
Okay.
So you just like, hey, we're going out. We're going to the beach. We're going to do this. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm home all the time. Let's watch it, catch up. However, that was the time I finally got to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, well, that's a classic.
Yes. Changed my life.
Yeah. I mean, as it should. It's Monty Python.
It was actually a homework assignment for my 8th grade theater teacher.
To watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Because I was doing a terrible job with an English accent for the play I was in. And so, like, I'm sitting there watching Harry Potter, but I sounded like Hermione. Oh, Wes will be expelled! And it's like, all right, dude. Here, I'm going to give you this movie to watch. And just immediately, it's like, oh, you're suggesting that coconut's more great. And that was it. That literally the first scene, and I'm like, oh, that's how it's done.
And it clicked. Yeah.
I watched it like 7 times. It was amazing.
Yeah. You know how last time we did an episode of Toonami where I had all these shows that I've never seen?
Yeah.
I've never seen anything Monty Python.
Oh, honey. We gotta fix that.
I know. It's on my list. I want to watch that. I got to watch Life with Brian. I've got to watch what's the other one? There's a few, right? There's
the show Flying Circus.
Flying Circus, yeah. So I know the actors. I've seen them in other stuff. They're John Cleese, one of my favorite actors of all times. I just never seen Monty Python. I've seen Fawlty Towers that he's in, which is a great show, by the way.
Yeah.
So TV dads, we're talking the best, the worst, the in-betweens. There's somebody that's not on your list, so I'm comfortable bringing him up right now. I want to see where he would fall on the spectrum of good versus bad.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Danny Tanner, Full House.
I wouldn't say he was great or bad. He's just he's vanilla.
Yeah.
He's there.
I'd say,
and he cares about his kids. He's there, but he's just so bland. It's like he's not really doing an impact. He's just there. You know who he reminds me of? Howard from Rugrats. He's just there.
I could see that.
He's not liked. He's not disliked. He's nothing.
Yeah.
Like the uncles have more respect from the kids.
Absolutely they do. They do most of the parenting.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was going to say is I don't think he's a good father figure because he doesn't really act like a father. I mean, he's got those little lessons that he teaches them at the end of the day after they've had the worst day of their lives and like spends like 5 minutes of monologuing with sad music in the background. But that does not make a great dad.
Right.
Like,
does that make him
and
a
for
bad
those
dad?
No, I don't think it makes him a bad dad. It just makes him a whatever dad. For those, by the way, who say that he was a great single parent, the dude was not a single parent. The dude had support in his house 24/7. He had 2 other parental figures with him.
He had
helping to raise his children. He had a commune. He did. He legit had a commune. So he wasn't a single parent, and he was just kind of okay. Yeah, he was. He was almond milk.
No, not even that. He was oat milk.
I should like oat milk more than almond milk.
Okay, fine. He's almond milk.
He's
Well,
almond
okay.
milk.
You gave me one. I want to give you one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim Taylor, I think, from Home Improvement, the dad from Home Improvement.
You remember what we talked about? How there's shows that I've never seen before. I've never seen a single episode of Home Improvement. I know.
I want to have a talk with your wife.
You need to, because she's seen it, and we talked about it on the last episode because we highlight is it Jill? Is his wife's name Jill Taylor? Yeah, we talk about her as being a great TV mom, and she's like, yeah, she was great. I loved her. I'm like, yeah, I've never seen it, so I can't really weigh in on this one.
Yeah, I got some date nights ideas for you guys. So
yes, in Home Improvement, we're watching through a show right. We can't watch more than one show at a time because otherwise it just throws off basically our whole marriage. So we. We are watching the X-Files right now, so we're cruising through that. We're on almost season 7.
First time for one of y'all?
For me, she's seen it many times. This is my first run through of X-Files, and I'm loving it. It's fantastic. Yes, she's finally because we've tried we've been married almost 10 years. We have tried to watch that show probably 3 or 4 times, and I usually just get bored and give up. And I'm like, you know what? No, honey, you deserve better than this. We're gonna watch this through to the end, and like true to it, like. There's very few shows that she's like ready to watch again and again. Like she doesn't like to binge watch a lot of shows, but this one, like I don't like to the point where like I know that after we're done recording, she's probably going to wait up for me so we can at least watch one episode together because it's like one of the few shows where we're both not on our phones and we're genuinely like talking about what's happening on the screen. And she's so passionate because she's a huge sci-fi nerd, right? So she's always loved like 90s sci-fi to the point where I'm probably going to do an episode of 90s sci-fi with at least her and maybe two other people. So she's super into it, which I love because I love doing things that she's super into because I love seeing how passionate she gets, and I can talk about basically anything. So I love watching it with her, and it's a good show. So it's a win-win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but anyway, so all that to say, no, I've not seen Home Improvement.
Okay.
But what are your thoughts on Tim Taylor? I mean, I know who he is. I know he's got a TV show, and I know he's got 3 kids.
He's kind of in the middle for me too. Like I feel like he's playing the trope of the dumb husband.
Yeah.
And so on one end I'm kind of like, yeah, he's being the dumb husband, but I also don't think he's neglecting the kids so much as they're just teenagers and they're getting up their shenanigans, and he's not yelling at them, which is huge. But just not outstanding. Not top 10.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna throw a hidden gem at you. You ready?
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay. And I think I know his last name, so I'm just going to say it. It's Floyd Henderson from Smart Guy. Do you remember that show? Am I triggering something, or are you drawing a blank?
I'm in thought 'cause I'm like, Smart Guy. I don't know if I have seen that show, but it does sound familiar.
All right, well, I'm gonna let me paint you a picture here, see if that triggers anything. So, Smart Guy was a show on the Disney Channel. Okay, we'll start there.
Okay, that's probably why I haven't.
You weren't a Disney Channel kid growing up?
Not really.
So it's Taj Mowry.
Watched this one.
No, okay, you're looking it up. Yeah, so Taj Mowry, who was the younger brother of the T and Tamara from Sister Sister.
Yeah,
and so he plays like this kid genius, and he's got his older brother, and he's got his dad who's a single dad, and he's got an older sister. And basically, he's like the super cool. He's a blue collar dad, right? Which I guess for me, I gravitate towards like the blue collar family shows. Like before we started recording, we talked about like Roseanne, my favorite sitcom probably of all time, just because it's so relatable, right? I grew up in a it was blue collar. My father was a corrections officer, which I would definitely classify as a blue collar job, just with more paperwork, and so. Anything with a blue collar family I relate to. And so his dad was like a roofing contractor. And so I'm like, all right, well, this guy's cool as hell. He's doing what he can for his kids. His son's like a super genius. And so, obviously he could very much relate to that growing up because, look at me. And so, he had to deal with that. But anyway, you haven't seen the show, so obviously I can't necessarily get thoughts. I think he was a fantastic dad, for the very short run that show had. I think it was like 1 or 2 seasons.
All right, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, shall we go ahead and get into our list?
Let's do it, man. Yeah, I think we should. I want to end on a positive note. Let's start with your worst list, and we'll go through them here, and we'll see which ones I agree with and disagree with. How about that?
All right. So, I guess I should put these in order.
Are they not in the order that you sent them to me in?
Maybe.
Are these just kind of...
I guess, but then... Because I didn't realize this was TV dads. I just was like 90s dads. So the first one...
I'll give you a pass, man. Like, we can... we'll make an... We'll include movies.
This is the only pass I'll need.
That's fair.
But Peter McAllister from Home Alone.
Yeah, that's hard to argue, man. And you only see him for a movie, right? So I don't even... What does he even do for a living? Oh,
I don't know, but the house they have and the trips they take with that many people...
Yeah, and paying for his, like, deadbeat brother and his family. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's doing some... I think I read somewhere that, like, I don't know if they knew what he did, but I think his mom was, like, a fashion designer or something, because there's all those mannequins in the house, and so she's maybe a fashion designer, so she makes really good money. But, yeah, I don't know what he does. I know it's... I mean, I think he's a white-collar guy, just based on the fact that, he wears... suits and ties and whatever and nice sweaters. I don't know. I'm just generalizing at this point. Yeah. Not a good dad. I would agree. Neglectful.
Granted, in the scenes that we see him, he is surrounded by a plethora of family.
Yes.
But he has 2 sons. He doesn't really seem engaged with either one of them.
I think he has 3 sons.
No, because you have Kevin, and then you have the older brother that
you got Buzz.
Pizza Buzz.
Yeah, but then you've got the one played by Big Pete from Pete and Pete.
I thought that was a cousin.
No, that's a brother.
Okay.
And he's got 2 sisters. I think it's 5 kids.
Fair enough.
Irish Catholic, man. They got a lot of kids,
Well, now I gotta ask, Jewish Catholic, how many kids did your family have?
My mom had 4. My grandmother had 5. My mom's mom, so Jewish.
Did she marry a Catholic man?
She did, actually, but she never converted. So because technically the way it works with, the Jewish culture, not Judaism per se, is if your mother was Jewish, you are Jewish, no matter what. So that is basically how I'm Jewish. I have never celebrated a single Jewish holiday. I make really good matzo ball soup, which I learned from my mom. It's bomb, dude. If you ever come visit, I will make you matzo ball soup. But yeah, so my grandmother, though, she married a Catholic man, but she never converted. So she always continued to observe Jewish holidays. Now, what was really cool, excuse me, is her birthday, my grandmother's birthday, was December 24th. So we got to celebrate Christmas with her, and it was also Nana's birthday at the same time. So she would get presents along with the rest of us because she celebrated her birthday. And she technically would always do Christmas with us anyway. She wasn't like a practicing Jew, but she was Jewish, Yeah, Jewish. So, hyphen in there. But anyway, all that to say, yeah, she had 5 kids. My mom had 4 kids. My dad's parents had 3 kids. They're Catholic, so, I guess.
Yeah, but they didn't marry a Jew, so that's why I was like, hold on.
No, they did not. No, yeah. On my dad's side, it's all Catholic or whatever, I don't even know. I've never bothered to ask my aunts and uncles. I don't know if they're Protestant, Methodist, nothing.
By all means, please like and subscribe, write a review.
Oh, yeah. No, I honestly have pretty zero strength opinions on people's religious affiliations. So, for the record. And, and not just because it's my podcast and I want you to keep listening, but because I just genuinely don't really care. Good for you. Don't be a dick. Yeah. Just don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. That's literally the crux of every religious text I've ever seen, if you think about it. There's a lot of other stuff too, but literally it all translates to don't be a dick, do good things. If you do that, I don't care what book you follow.
Yeah.
So there it is. Anyway, so Peter McAllister.
Yes.
I have a theory about this though, because I've thought about this. Yeah.
Because when they realized that they left Kevin, it was only the mom that was stressing out. The dad was like, call the cops. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, and then he tried. No, I think his dad.
I think he could be a good husband. I don't think he's a good dad.
That's fair. I think his dad was overstimulated with the amount of family and craziness running around that he just shut down. Okay. I don't want to use the term autistic because I don't think that's correct in this case. Maybe ADHD, because I've seen it. I think I'm, I know I've certainly on some kind of spectrum when it comes to like overstimulation, where if there's too much going on, I just shut down. I can't pay attention to anything. I go into my nothing box. And I think that's what happened with Peter McAllister, quite frankly. He had so much going on where, the power went out, the alarm didn't go off, and he's trying to scramble to get like 45 people to the airport. And
so that I don't hold that to him.
It's more so after they realize he's missing.
Once they've realized, I'm basing this off of the pizza party before.
Okay.
And I'm basing his reaction after they realized we fucking left our son.
Okay, that's
He's
fair.
Fine. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
In fact, in the second one, when he gets left in New York.
Yeah.
He said it's like, damn it, have it again. He's using my credit card for what? He's more concerned that his son's spending his money.
That's true. Yeah, he's like, once he realizes that his son's maxing out his cards, that's what he's got the problem with. That's a good point, But at the same time, and maybe I'd love to get your opinion on this as a father. Whenever my kid does something that like hurts himself, or let's say he takes a spill on his bike or whatever, my wife will be the first one to go rush and go, "Oh my God, my baby, are you okay? Do we need to, get ice or whatever?" I'm literally the first one to go, "He's fine. He's good. Walk it off." So maybe that was just Peter McAllister's way of saying, you know what? He's 8 years old. He's basically a man. He's fine. He's going to take care of himself.
If he's got those expectations,
I'm not saying they're not misguided. I'm just saying, maybe that's the route he's going with this tough love.
If he was doing tough love, I think they're... See, tough love comes in the form of, I want you to be strong because I'm afraid the world's going to eat you and spit you back out. This was more so it's like, dude, you're being annoying. Go to your room. Like, not even chastising the older son from, like, antagonizing Kevin. Just like, you're annoying. Go to your room.
Yeah, not even his room. He had to go.
Cards. Like, it's just, he might be a good husband. Maybe. That's up for debate. But I just think that he's not a good dad to Kevin.
All right. I'm not going to disagree. I think he definitely deserves to be on one of the worst TV movie dads because, he kind of sucks. So, all right, fair enough. All right, that is your number 5. Let's work our way up the list here to the absolute worst. What do we got for number 4?
Okay, so number 4, hot take if you don't think so, Stu Pickles from Rugrats.
No, I 100% agree. He's a terrible dad.
Terrible dad. He is. They have a house that they're subsisting off a teacher's salary.
A substitute teacher's salary.
A substitute teacher's salary.
Yeah.
He puts his kids, it will be eventually kids, but he puts his kids' life in danger in a hovercraft in the first birthday episode. Yeah. And it's like like literally, this is the pilot episode that they air.
Yeah.
In which case, he's like, oh, I don't want to change the diaper. In fact, while you're changing the diaper, I want to talk to you. Don't hand it to me. Ew. Like, he's not the one engaged with Tommy.
Yeah.
And then when he is, it's because he's trying to get validation that his invention means something.
Yes.
But, like, he's...
There's very little, like, father-son, like, wow, he genuinely cares for his son. And I'll tell you, funnily enough, the one episode I can remember of Rugrats where it felt like Stu genuinely had a connection with Tommy was the episode where he bumps his head and he thinks he's a baby for most of the episode. Do you remember that one?
I do remember that one.
And then at the end, like, he goes back to being, grown-up Stu in his head, and all of a sudden he's, oh, hey, bud, what's up? And, like, you just see him palling with his son because his son was sad that all of a sudden he didn't have his dad baby Stewie anymore to play with. Now he has to deal with grown-up dad, which is not nearly as fun. So right there, it should be a sign that, okay, this guy needs to reevaluate his life choices when it comes to parenting. But, you had that genuine moment at the end there, which I thought was kind of nice. But no, for the most part, yeah, dude, he's kind of a piece of shit dad.
Yeah.
Like, he's obviously
also a
kind
piece of shit husband.
I mean, he is.
So, in the episode of Dr. Lipschitz, so Dee Dee, who's obsessed with Dr. Lipschitz, she's the perfectionist Jewish mother.
Yeah.
And is doing guilt trips all over. But, like, she's sitting there trying to just smooze with Dr. Lipschitz. And then as soon as there's a break, Stu and his dad, Lou, convince Chaz even to, like, all right, no, we're going to leave. The kids can stay. we're going to go to the baseball game.
Yes.
Just completely. And then Jeannie's like, did they take the kids to the baseball game? So then she goes off under false pretenses, leaving the kids with Dr. Lipschitz in the fucking house.
Yeah.
And he's a quack. Like, no, he's absolutely like,
he's a creep. He goes and takes a bubble bath in their bath.
Bubble bath in their bath. He's wearing Stu's robe. He's going through their fridge. He is a mooch. Oh,
yeah.
That was an episode. We actually had a real therapist on, sharing her thoughts
on Dr. Lipschitz.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some kind of a diagnosis there because he's
just
not to mention the fact that going back to Stu, he's a genius because he is an inventor and he's inventing really cool technology. The dude could be making bank with his skills as an inventor,
but he doesn't follow through. Everything
but he doesn't
is about trying to find validation for himself because he never got that from his dad.
Yes, because his older brother got it all the time.
Is Drew the older brother?
Isn't he? I don't know.
All right.
I thought he was.
I want to get an intern to look this up.
The intern on your phone?
Yep.
Because I thought he was the older brother, and then Stu would always kind of get the shaft and kind of get bullied by him, which is why Angelica, Drew's daughter, is kind of the bully to Stu's kids.
He is the older brother. You're right.
I thought so. See, and so I think Drew always, and that's that's not exclusive to Rugrats either. How many movies and shows have we watched where the older brother is just like the stud, and then the younger brother kind of just gets the shaft and ends up being either a loser or just like he just never amounts to anything because he's like, why bother? My brother's just better than me. But that's a whole other episode. So whenever we have a Brothers Day podcast, that's we'll talk about those. I don't know if there's a Brothers Day, but if there is, there's a Siblings Day actually. Maybe I'll do a Siblings Day podcast in the future.
Fair enough.
But all right, so Stu, hard agree. Is that right? Yeah, strongly agree that Stu Pickles is a terrible dad. So no disagreement from in there. Now this next one you've got, I think I can actually, I think I can make a good counterpoint. I'm not trying to convince you, but I think I can make a good counterpoint.
If you want to share some points, I have, and I know this is going to be controversial because he is iconic and he is hilarious, but I think he follows his wife in the sense that not a good parent, even though it's funny.
Yeah.
Al Bundy.
And see, this is where I'm going to disagree because, yes, he is hilarious. He is also, how he makes as much money as he does selling shoes, I have no idea, to be able to afford that very nice house and everything like that. But the dude works for his money. He's, kind of that blue collar, white collar, whatever you would classify retail. But obviously very good at his job because he's bringing home bank to be able to provide for his family. His wife does not have to work. His kids, for the most part, well, Kelly's a bit of an airhead, but, she seems to be okay. Bud is a teenager, and he's kind of... I'll say this. Bud reminds me of the 90s version of Alex P. Keaton.
Okay.
He's very determined. He's always got schemes that he's coming up with. He's just a little misguided. He's not as intelligent as Alex P. Keaton. But I think Al knows that because... he raised him and he knows his limitations. I think there's more moments of fatherly tenderness with his kids than some other TV dads you would see out there. As much as he's kind of like, with his wife, I think he's just stressed in general because, like, again, he's the breadwinner of the house and sometimes he just wants to get home, put his feet up on the table and take a nap. And he can't do that because his family is acting crazy around him. And I feel for the guy.
But that's the thing. He comes home and ignores his family until there's a situation where he's like, all right, let me finally step in and be tender. But, like, it gets crazy because he's not present.
That's fair.
Like,
all right, I see both sides.
That's the angle I was going with, is, like, he wasn't really present in his kids' lives. And the reason why he's stepping in is because now he has to. Not because he wants to, not because he cares. Right. It's because now he has to. Things got out of hand and he can't rest, so now he's got to deal with this.
I can see that. All right. I'll concede that. He wasn't the best dad. Wasn't the worst dad, but I noticed that he's right smack in the middle of your list too. So
I can move Al Bundy around. In fact, I probably would put him at 5 and then McAllister at 3.
I don't know. I still think Stu's worse than Peter McAllister.
You think Stu's worse?
I do, personally. But that's your list, man. If you want to move him around, you can.
All right. Now, we talked about Uncle Phil, and we'll talk about him again. But we're gonna go back to the Fresh Prince because at number 2 we have Will's actual dad. This is the reason Will has abandonment issues.
So Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith.
Yes.
Will's dad. Okay.
Yes. Because, like, he even comes back. He's like, hey, buddy, I missed you. And Will is so excited because his dad's finally here. And it seems like his dad actually wants him. And he's planning, I want to go on this trip with my dad. And then as soon as something hard comes up, he's like, look, Will, sorry, but I got to go by myself.
Yeah. But I'll call you.
Yeah, I'll call you. And the immediate disappointment of, you're leaving me again. Yeah. Something got tough for you. And now you're going to leave again because you can't be man enough to stand in front and actually confront the issue.
Right.
Like, and then, again, we'll get back to Uncle Phil, because Uncle Phil confronts him about it.
Yes.
But just that whole, when your child is left, why doesn't he want me?
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Like,
well, and you wonder, like, how many stepfathers that have stepped up in their stepkids' lives, and they don't see them as stepkids; they see them as their own kids. This is obviously slightly different, but the same thing.
This is why a big proponent of what I saw as good fathers weren't the ones that were biological; they were the ones that took the role by choice.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I remember my sister. For my dad, so I have a half sister, so my dad is her stepfather, but he's known her since she was 8 years old. He walked her down the aisle for her wedding, that's his daughter, right? And I remember one time she had bought him a mug, and it was older mug. It had like a lion on it, but it said, "Anyone can be a father. It takes someone special to be a dad."
Yeah,
and so that it takes a real man to be a dad. You know, anyone can be the donor, but the dad sticks around. And so, yeah, in this case, again, we're still on the worst list. Will's dad is definitely the donor and not much else. And because it's unfortunate because you're right, man. There's so many people in the real world that have no business being parents. And to be honest with you, again, not defending Will's dad because he's a shitty father, but as a person, like, if that guy never had kids, you wouldn't think he was a bad guy, right? Because he never had the opportunity to screw up as a parent. And so but it's the people that are aware, like, listen, I know I would be a terrible parent. This is why I'm choosing not to have kids. That to me is like the ultimate, like, dude, mad respect, because you know your limitations and you don't want to, screw something up when you have control over not doing it. It's the ones that don't think about the future and think about those consequences. That's how they end up on the worst TV dads list.
For sure.
That's what happened with Stu Pickles, man. He didn't care. He just wanted all of Dee Dee.
To a point, I think Stu cares.
No, I know. I'm just busting.
But his caring comes from, I need to be validated.
Yeah. And
so he kind of uses Tommy as that validation, not because...
Yeah, it's his own insecurities. Yeah. I agree. No, I'm just, yeah.
Y'all ready for our number 1 worst dad?
Worst TV dad. I am dying.
TV?
Yes, what do you got?
We got Big Bob Pataki from Hey Arnold.
That's Helga's dad. Oh my God. Yeah, he sucks, man.
He sucks ass.
But you notice here, once again, Helga, the younger sibling, Olga, the older sister, is this brilliant, everyone loves her, and you got Helga, this super insecure person that just is ignored by her parents. And so she's damaged goods, right, from the get-go, because her mom's an alcoholic, right? I think it's implied, but she's basically just a lush, right?
The smoothies are alcoholic.
That's what I thought. And then of course he's just Big Bob's a workaholic, right? He's a used car salesman, I think, or
beeper
it's been a while. Beeper salesman. Sorry, yeah, very 90s. Beepers. Obviously very successful because he's providing for his family.
He's
but
the
yeah,
Beeper King.
He's the Beeper King. God, Big Bob's Beepers. That's right.
Yep.
I have not watched that show in so long. I need to. But he never even knows her name. Like as far as Helga goes, he always calls her either Olga or says, "Why can't you be more like your sister?"
Yeah.
And again, that's one of those where, like, you hear it on the show and you're like, I never want to do that. But I know people in real life that's how they were parented by their parents, of like, why can't you be more like your sibling, and just purposely pit them against each other.
Why can't you be like them? Why can't we hold you to the standard? It's, you're going to be invisible. Like, literally, And the episode, so we talked about having the therapist on, talking about Dr. Lipschitz. We also covered the episode where Helga goes to therapy.
Yeah.
And so literally we go through and we see the whole thing where she's even mad. She's like, who's taking me to daycare or kindergarten, whatever it is. I think it's daycare.
Yeah.
Or preschool, that's what it is. And like, add a little bit. Your sister Olga is playing the piano. Oh, look how great it sounds. And then it's like, hey, I need a jacket. It's like, oh, the snow should stop soon.
Yeah.
Like they don't, like, she's so unseen.
Yeah.
And it's just, the reason why she's so confrontational is because she feels like she has to in order to be seen.
Yes.
Like, just the whole, look, because you are not, it's not even that she hasn't been given the chance. Like, she hasn't been given the chance. It's just,
yeah,
they got their prized possession. It makes them feel better about themselves because their lives are kind of shitty. You have Bob being overbearing. You have the mom, of course, being alcoholic. They're not even happy in a relationship. But they have this one bright jewel, and they don't need anything else. Like, that's
that's very sad. And
that's actually, it was kind of interesting because this is also the part where Helga first is introduced to Arnold, because Arnold says, hey, I like your boots. They're pink, like your hair bow.
Yep.
And just a moment of being seen is what starts her, like, her
obsession.
Infatuation of Arnold. Yes.
Yes.
Like, it was just that one act of kindness was enough to change her world. That's
the
all
first one to notice her. Yeah.
And her dad, piece of shit, would even, like, deign to give her that validation.
Yep. Oh, God, he sucks. Yeah. But, man, it just reminds me, like, Hey Arnold may be one of the best TV shows, and it's a shame that it's stigmatized as a cartoon because it is technically a kid's show. But my God, that show had some of the realest moments. We talked before about, like, Arnold's Christmas special. There's just so much real in this show that it's a shame that it's been relegated to just, an old kid's show, because it's so much more than that. I love Hey Arnold.
Yeah, Craig Bartlett, showrunner, show creator. Just brilliant work, my friend.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right, those are your worst. That was a lot of darkness there, but we've got some light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. We've got some of your best TV dads here. Let's. We've already spoiled the number one spot. It's Uncle Phil, and I don't think people will argue with that because he is an amazing TV dad. And he does have his own kids, by the way. He's not just some rando. You know what I mean? So he's a great father to them too. So, all right. Who do you have at your number 5 spot?
So for number 5, I have Alan Matthews from Boy Meets World.
Excellent. Corey's dad, of course.
Yes.
I would 100% agree. He's a fantastic father. The dude busts his ass at the grocery store every day, and then comes home and just wants to be a good dad for his kids.
I'm finding it interesting. We have very different views of what makes a great dad. Your view of a great dad is he's got to be able to provide financially.
Yeah. And
my whole thing is, like, he's got to be engaging and, like, invested and emotionally available to his kids.
Yep.
Like, that's, so, at least for me, it felt like my dad was not emotionally invested or available for me. So that's why I try to do it for my kid, and what I really resonate with other fathers. Why is providing for the family such a big thing for you?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's because, my dad was the breadwinner, and, it wasn't even just my dad. I remember I had a conversation with my grandfather one time where he was the sole breadwinner, so this is on my dad's side, and so he told me one time, I was a kid, so I wasn't even thinking about being a parent yet, but he told me a conversation that he had with his father-in-law, so my grandmother's father, when they were younger, and he worked, I think, at a mill. It was a mill, and he basically just worked until, like, he couldn't work anymore because he physically couldn't do it anymore. And he basically broke his body to provide for his family. And so my grandfather was a younger guy that, I don't think he had his own kids yet. And he asked him, he said, "Hey, why did you do this? You literally just, like, you bent over backwards and you can hardly walk anymore to do this. Why did you do that? And he goes, Sandy, it's my grandfather's name. He goes, Sandy, sometimes you do what you have to do. And that's all there is to it. And so I don't know why that resonated with me so much, but again, I think because, and my dad, I will say, my dad was definitely emotionally available for me. Like I have had fantastic conversations with my dad. Dad, if you're listening to this, I love you so much. But he worked a lot. Happy Father's Day, exactly. But he worked a lot. He was a corrections officer, and he was always pulling double shifts, sometimes triple shifts, to bring in the overtime to provide, because he was the breadwinner for the most part. I mean, my mom had like a side business where she would sell eBay stuff, right? That was her thing. But my dad, I mean, it was his paycheck was, primarily what was feeding us. And so he tried not to, but he definitely would miss school events sometimes, or some holiday, dinners, because, prisons don't close, right? So he literally would have to fight to get Thanksgiving off. And if he did, he definitely was going to have to work on Christmas, or vice versa. So I never got him for all of the holidays all the time. He wasn't a 9-to-5er that I got on weekends where I could spend all the time with him. It was, if I got lucky, if like for the next 3 months he was working, 9 to 5, so that I could see him when he got home from work. But there was a very good chance that he was working 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. or, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. where I wasn't really seeing him hardly at all, because when he was working those overnights, he was sleeping during the day, and our job was to be quiet so that we didn't wake Dad, because he had to work that night. So, but when he was awake and when he was around, he was very engaged. So, and I definitely feel like as a parent, I want to be engaging with my kids, but at the same time, I don't know why, it always resonated with me more like, take care of your family first and foremost. Be a good dad, be a good, dad to your kids, but a big part of that is take care of your family financially. Make sure that they aren't wanting for anything. And so, man, wow, whew, we just went deep, man. I'm sorry. I'm
you
processing
don't have to
all
apologize.
this.
You're getting
No,
something
I know.
off of your chest.
I guess, yeah. No, I just, and I've talked about this with my own wife before, of like, because we're both like, all right, how much are we screwing up our kids? How much do we screw up our kids today? We'll definitely have those conversations, but it's always, I mean, without even thinking about it, it's always in the back of my mind, like, how would my father have handled a situation like this? You know what I mean? And sometimes I would agree and sometimes I wouldn't. And so I would pivot, but, to have that at least was good. And again, just bringing it back around to TV dads, I know there's a lot of kids that grew up and did not have good father figures in their life, so they would look to these characters on TV for some sort of, guidance or comfort or what have you. And so someone like Alan Matthews, he's definitely one of those guys, right? I mean, that's a dad right there. That
he was kind, but he was also firm.
Yep.
Like he was that dad that people wanted, because like he's actually engaged.
Yep. He wasn't an idiot either. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't like aloof. He was with it.
Yes.
And he had a great marriage. Like, he and his wife really never fought.
Which, I mean, I don't think fighting is bad for a relationship.
No, but like they would have disagreements. That's what I'm saying, is they communicated, and they had a healthy, from what you could see. And again, this is a TV show. I'm well aware, but they had a healthy marriage, which honestly, I feel, if you have a healthy marriage, then obviously, you're going to be that much better as a parent, because you've got a united front, you've got a teammate, you guys are working together. You know what I mean?
You're providing that example for your kids. Like, this is what a healthy relationship is.
Exactly. So, and that's, yeah. I mean, sometimes arguments happen, but that's why, like my wife and I will certainly have disagreements, but if we do, and especially if the kids see it, because we'll get into a heated discussion while they're watching TV, and they're like, God, guys, stop! You're so loud. I'm trying to watch this, and that happens. But at the same time, I then want them to see, okay, we're good now. We've worked this out. See, this is how it's done. Conflict resolution, right? And so that was all I was saying with Alan Matthews, is that, he definitely had disagreements with his wife, but they talked through it. They worked through it. Everything was good. They knew how to communicate. So. All right, what you got next for number 4?
I got Dan Connors from Roseanne.
Oh yeah, I'd put him higher on the list personally, but I mean he's absolutely deserving of being on the list.
This is tough, because the one that's next sacrifices so much for their child. Okay, so that's why I have them
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll hold off on that one. Let's talk Dan Connors from Roseanne. Obviously, no disagreement. Fantastic father. Again, blue collar guy, just trying to provide for his family. That seems to be the theme with me as far as what resonates with me for great dads. But he was also, I think, he was very involved in his kids' lives.
Oh, absolutely. He was not afraid of having a powerful woman in his life.
Yeah. No.
Like, Roseanne was very opinionated. Raised her voice whenever she needed to, and he was like, preach.
But it wasn't because like he was a weenie either, right? Because sometimes you'll have that
like
trope
he wasn't
of like
a punching bag.
No,
it's like I'm not going to silence my wife.
No, he was a big enough man. Yeah, well, and that's what I think I love about him too is that he was an intimidating figure, right? Like you didn't need like he could have just been all you need to be like, all right, I'm going to give you, he could give you the death stare and that's it. But like, no, he was confident enough in himself as a human being and as a man to let his wife, have that not the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? Like she could be the one to.
She could also be heard. It wasn't a competition.
No, it wasn't. And he was confident enough in himself, comfortable in his own skin to be able to allow for that, which again, for a guy that's, supposedly the stereotypical townie that never, did much after high school. Like, I mean, that's pretty awesome that, it just goes to show you that, it's, there's way more to people than you give them credit for when you first lay eyes on them. And I think Dan Connors
meets the eye.
See, there it is, just like Transformers. So Dan Connor, man, and again,
number 3, Optimus Prime. Sorry,
right? No, although he does sacrifice a lot for his old home planet of Cybertron. So I don't know,
but not a dad. Sorry,
I guess the Transformers can't procreate, right? As far as you know, no, I didn't think so. Oh well. Anyway, Dan Connors, great dad, can't disagree. Yeah, he's awesome. Number 3, Again, I'm looking at your list, so this is not new to me. But I can't disagree as well. But I love, because you have so much invested in this character from your own podcast in terms of discussions you've had. So, yeah, man, lay it on us. What do we have for number 3?
We got Mr. Wynn from Hey Arnold.
Yes.
So the story of Mr. Wynn, he is the Vietnamese immigrant that lives with Arnold and his family and his colony of random people that are now his family.
Yes.
But on Arnold's Christmas, you actually find out that he has a daughter that he hasn't seen in 20 years, I think. Because literally, during the Vietnam War, in order to save his daughter, he had to give her up to the military to take her to the United States. And he finally got back, but he had nowhere to find her. Yep. So he's been living and searching all this time. And Arnold and Gerald go on this journey to try and find her. But it's actually Helga who finds her.
Yep.
And it's just this beautiful moment where Arnold feels like he's found because he wanted to give Mr. Wynn this great Christmas present that meant something. And then this surprise comes in. And you hear Papa in Vietnamese, which I can't remember what else. But just he immediately just turned around and knew it was her.
Yeah.
You talk about sacrificing for a financial gain. He sacrificed for freedom. He sacrificed so that she could actually live. And and it might need to go higher in the list, but that's just I had to at least put it in. And that's why I have it in 3. Honestly, I could probably go in 2, but that's just
that's a big sacrifice.
That level of sacrifice of I have missed out on years of my daughter because I wanted to make sure she could live.
Yeah.
That she could escape this hell. Oh, gosh.
Now, I don't recall, but it's just, again, I haven't seen the show in a long time. Does she ever come back in a future episode? Do they have a relationship that you see on screen or no?
I don't recall, actually. I'll have to look into that.
Because that was a first season episode, right? That was...
Ooh, that probably is a first season.
I think it's a first... I was just going to say, there's plenty of time where she could have come back, but at least you know that for the rest of the series run, Mr. Wynn is happy because he's got his daughter back.
Yes.
So there's that, which is nice. All right. So then, I mean, really, there's only one mystery left. We've got 2 left on the list, but again, we know number 1 is Uncle Phil. So who is the, in this case, the coveted number 2 spot for best TV dads?
Number 2, we got Carl Winslow.
Carl Winslow from Family Matters.
Yes.
All right. I think he's a very good dad. I would have swapped it personally. I would have swapped him and Dan Connors on your list just because I think I watched Roseanne more. That's probably what it boils down to, honestly.
And for me, I watched Family Matters more.
Yeah. The
and
TGIF
also,
block.
Black people season their food more. So it just, to me, that was more important to raising healthy and
That's fair.
Prepared children.
So, all right, let's talk Carl Winslow.
No, he was an officer who stood for the morals that he stood for. He could get annoyed. There were plenty of times he was like, "You're being too much."
Yeah.
But he was always there to stick up for his kids.
Yep.
He was always there to be like, "I'm going to protect you no matter what I have to do." And he was also, like, to your point, he was the one that was always working as well to provide for his family.
Yep.
But he also made time emotionally when he got home.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't that trope of, I'm coming home and I just need to sit down and watch sports.
Yeah.
Let me tune out the world. He was very much engaged.
He was engaged. Yeah, no, and again, kind of, comparing him to Uncle Phil, I'm not comparing Steve Urkel to Will Smith necessarily, but he was a father figure to Steve Urkel, because if you remember in Family Matters, Steve Urkel's parents were kind of bad parents too. I mean, you never saw them, but it was always implied that they were too busy with their own stuff to like pay him any attention. That's why he was always over there at the Winslow house. And so he kind of, Carl kind of raises, Steve as well as kind of a surrogate son in a way. And it's not exactly the same, but I feel like you got a lot of parallels there with, Carl and Steve and Uncle Phil and Will, right? As far as,
that's fair.
Like at first he's super annoyed, but I mean, my God, Carl obviously loves Steve, and he eventually does become part of the family when he marries Laura. Laura? What is it? It's Laura, right?
I mean,
Laura Winslow?
Tomato,
there it is.
Matter.
Okay. Anyway, the point is, Steve is part of the family, and Carl makes sure that he is treated like a son. Eventually, not at first, obviously.
Yeah. Of course. He's like, I don't owe you shit.
Yeah.
But, okay, fine.
You kind of do, yeah. So, I think Carl's an excellent choice. I cannot disagree there. There's one dad that's not on this list, and we before we started recording, we talked about him on the animated side. What are your thoughts on Nigel Thornberry?
I think he's a great dad.
Yeah.
Honestly, I toyed with the thought of having him on the list.
Okay.
No, I think it's a great dad. I think he's very much... He believes in his children.
Yep.
Whereas the mom is more cautious of, no, I want to keep them safe. He's very much like, they need to be able to test themselves. They need to be able to grow. So, like, the fact that he's like, hey, no, come with us. We're going on this wild safari adventure for this documentary. And, no, I trust them. We've raised them well. We've raised them to be strong. So I'm going to trust them to be strong.
Yep.
And any time that Eliza has gone off on her own and maybe overstepped bounds, he still is like, you had us worried, but I'm glad you're safe. Thank you for showing us how strong you are.
Yes.
He doesn't phrase it like that, but just the fact that he's there and ready to embrace her, like that just, yeah.
And
he's
been
on this list.
You can tell how excited he is to have his kids with him on this, you know what I mean? This journey that they're going on with the documentary. Like, he's just so excited. He's so into his kids, which again, that's another thing that, you love seeing my wife told me this one time, and I don't know if this is true for all, moms or women or whatever, but she's like, nothing turns a girl on, at least, from her perspective, more than seeing a dad who's super into his kids and playing with his kids, right? Or just like doing stuff with his kids and engaged with his kids. I think that's like a thing, right? So,
yeah.
I think Nigel Thornberry encompasses that beautifully, because he gets to take them on cool adventures, and he very much is involved in what they're all about, and wants them involved in what he's doing, and they it's really a good family environment.
Now, I got some things to say about Nigel's mom.
I don't remember Nigel's mom.
You
I,
meet
I
her. I believe it's the Wild Thornberry movie.
okay, I've never saw that. Yeah.
Mumsy.
Okay.
Mumsy.
Mumsy.
But she's so manipulative and
Oh,
just
really?
like, hey, I'm not going to tell your parents I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm going to control your life. You were in danger, so I'm going to send you to boarding school. And, oh, you escaped? Well, I'm not even going to tell your parents that you escaped. I'm going to go get you myself, and I'm going to take you back without them knowing. Like, it's just...
Yeah. Okay.
But, no, out of that, Nigel came out really well. And I would say he's very deserving as an honorary mention.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. Honorable mention. Do we have any honorable mentions for the worst dads or no? I can't think of any other ones that are that bad.
I can't really think of anyone that bad either.
Yeah, they're either neutral, like Danny Tanner or Tim Taylor, or they're bad and they're on the list.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Or they're bad, but they were like in the 2000s, and we can't cover that yet.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, maybe eventually we can just for fun do a follow up on that or whatever. But yeah. All right, man. Well, listen. We're hour and 15 in. This was a lot of fun. I have a lot to unpack now. I think I've decided, but this was very therapeutic for me. So thank you. You know, and it's just, I don't know, man, like, because it's not, and moms, dads, whatever, parents, if you grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s and you're the same generation that Ty and I are, you know, there's a good chance you have kids, and there's a good chance your kids are around our kids' age, you know, young kids. And there's a very good chance that you're always, you know, wondering, am I doing the right thing by my kids? Am I being a good parent?
And there's a really good chance that you need therapy. So
go
to betterhelp.com, promo code.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I never got the BetterHelp promo request. I never got them to sponsor the show. Although, hey, if they come knocking, man, $20 $20. So,
yeah.
But, no, my point being, Ty, is that
before I was rudely interrupted.
if you are asking yourself, am I doing a good job as a parent? Then I promise you the answer is most definitely probably yes. Like, I can't guarantee it.
To think about that.
Yeah.
The fact that you care is already leaps and bounds what other parents have done.
Absolutely. So again, happy Father's Day, happy belated Mother's Day, happy Parents' Day. You're doing a great job. And thank you for listening. Ty, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was, I guess if this was in the 90s, this would be a very special episode of Generation S. In the commercials leading up to it, and it wasn't planning to. We were just planning on shooting the shit tonight, but no, we had some really good conversations, man. And I'm so excited for you to be a dad times 2. Super pumped. You got a little girl on the way, man. That's amazing. Do you have names picked out, or is this like a surprise kind of thing?
So her name is going to be Leona Regina.
Okay.
Which translates to the Lion Queen.
I love that, and it's a lot of syllables too, so it sounds badass.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so much more. I love my kids' names. We picked them out ourselves, but it's nothing cool like that. So like Carl, I'll tell you. So my son's name is Carl Steven, which is named after my dad and my wife's dad, right? Because, you know, so my wife is, you know, it's her and her sister, and that's it. There's no boys, and so there's no more last name being carried on. So I said, well, listen, let's at least, you know, we'll name him Carl because that's your dad's name, and we can at least carry the first name on, right? So she was totally down with that.
Yeah,
great.
I have a thing about naming kids after other people, just because, like, that's just, especially like Junior. It's like, no, I don't want you live in my shadow. So our son's name is Theodore Rex, which is God's gift, the king, and boy does he feel entitled. But also it's T-Rex. So.
It's T-Rex, yeah. That's amazing. Do you call him like Teddy Rex?
For our daughter, we wanted to name her Terra Dactyl. And
oh my. Well, not for nothing. I legit, for the second child, I don't know how serious she was. I'm going to say she was serious just because it makes it so much better for the story. I almost got my wife to agree to Bruce Wayne Kemp for our second child.
I love it. You could also name her Daisy, because then you could just call her Oopsie Daisy, which is my wife's joke, and she's still laughing to this day. I
love it. That's amazing.
Number 1 is Uncle Phil. I know we gotta put that in there real quick. we talked about how he chose to be the dad that Will needed. Like, he chose to take in Will like that. But I want to, before we go, I want to call out some of the moments that just really resonated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, especially after Will's dad leaves, you have Will furious. It's like, I don't need him. I don't need that loser. And then, like, that anger turns to devastation of, why doesn't he want me?
Yeah.
And immediately, Will, like, Uncle Phil just holds him so tight.
Yeah.
To let him know, it's like, you're wanted here.
Yeah. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't
have to.
That embrace. Yeah.
So,
every time I watch that scene, because I'll randomly just go watch it on YouTube because it's such a powerful scene, right? It is. So yeah, it's good stuff, man. Well, listen, if you're a parent, go hug your kids. Okay, just do it. They don't even have to know why. Just go hug them. And yeah, Ty, thanks for coming on the show, man. Had a lot of fun. And
absolutely.
Yeah, dude. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day twice.
Happy Father's Day to you as well.
Thank you.
Happy to be on the show with my mic again.
Yes, you sound great this time. Last time was a little rough. No, you sounded fine last time.
No, I
sound great this time. Yeah, you sound good. All right, man. Well, listen, once again, Ty from Whiskeylodeon Season 3 is on the way. The first episode, all about SpongeBob the movie. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. Subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. And same thing for you here, by the way. If you haven't subscribed yet where you're getting notifications that a new episode drops every Wednesday, just do it because it helps with my algorithm, I think. And then leave a review. Even if it takes 2 seconds, leave a review on iTunes or Spotify. Excuse me. Jeez. Jesus. No, man, just seriously, guys, leave a review. Tell a friend if you know people that grew up in the 90s that would love to kind of kick back and just wax nostalgia about all this stuff. You know, there's a ton of 90s podcasts out there. I'm not going to say there's not, but none of them have me and none of them have my friends. So check it out, have them check us out.
And if you're having a great time and you love this, write a review. That really helps his show to reach other people. So
yes, 100%, and it really does, because if you write the review, basically it flags, at least in iTunes, like the algorithm will say, okay, this is like a new or hot podcast, and then the logo will show up. People will see it as like, oh, check this out if you're into nostalgia or whatever it is. So please, takes 2 seconds, leave a review. I would so greatly appreciate that.
And then come on Whiskeylodeon and also write a review.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Leave a review on Whiskeylodeon, man. He's got a great show. I've already left, I think, 5 reviews, just to pad your numbers a little bit there.
Aww.
But yeah, of course, man.
Daddy.
But seriously, great show. And yeah, check us out. Like I said, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. So just wherever you get your social media, we're probably on there doing something at some point. And yeah, man. Ty, thank you for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
All right. We will talk to you soon.
Goodbye.